The very first week of kindergarten, my daughter fell off the monkey bars at kindergarten and she broke her arm. And I
Oh,
felt like, you know what? It's probably the first time nobody was hovering underneath her to catch her when she fell. She never had to
oh,
learn how to fall safely, how to land on her feet, because I was always there catching her, me or my husband. There's something to be said for sometimes they're going to fall and it's okay.
Hi, I'm Crystal Luce, Professor of Education.
And I'm Aimee Ketchum, pediatric occupational therapist.
Welcome to Plant the Seed of Learning, the podcast where we merge education and medical models to bring you science-based practical insights on all things early childhood.
Whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or policymaker, we're here to help you support children from the start. So, today we are reviewing some research on risky play, one of our favorite topics. So, with the warm weather now, we are in June, many children are venturing outside to engage in what researchers call risky play. Many might be wondering what exactly we mean by risky play and what that includes. So today we're going to review several categories of what that entails. So should we start with a fact or fiction today?
Yeah, this is a good one for a fact or fiction because there's a
Okay.
lot out there that is misleading.
There is. There
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Okay. So, Crystal, fact or fiction? Risky
Mm,
play has substantial benefits across various aspects of children's health.
fact.
That is fact. Some people think of the word risky and think bad, but risky play benefits physical, mental, and social emotional development.
Mhm.
Physically, it increases activity levels and reduces sedentary time that can contribute to lifelong physical literacy and possibly enhancing the immune system. Mentally, it
Mm.
supports resilience, problem solving, and conflict resolution, while socially, it fosters cooperation, communication, and a sense of belonging. So there are so many benefits that we're going to delve into today.
Ooh, let's get started with our research connection. And today we are looking at an article called The Prevalence of Risky Play in Young Children's Indoor and Outdoor Free Play. And this is by Sandseter, and it has some really good information. The purpose of the study was to measure how often children engage in risky play, both indoors and outdoors, when they are free to choose what, where, and with whom they play. There were actually 80 students between the ages of 3 to 6 in this Norwegian study where they looked at observations of approximately 1,878 randomly recorded 2-minute video segments during students' free play, because they did this in their early childhood settings, like their facility settings. And then researchers coded the videos second by second, and they looked at 8 categories of risky play. Those categories are really good to know. So here are some of the categories: play with great height, play
Mm.
with high speed, play with dangerous tools, play near dangerous elements, rough and tumble play, which is one of my favorites because
Uh-huh.
I had a lot of boys. There was a lot of rough and tumble happening at my house. Play where children go exploring alone, play with impact, and vicarious play. And the
Wow.
findings were that risky play occurred in 20% of all observations, with the mean time spent in risky play of about 10%. And of the 8 risky play categories, 2 categories were most prevalent: play near dangerous elements. I'm sorry, not most prevalent, were not seen at all. And they were play near dangerous elements and play where children go exploring alone. And I think that connects to parenting today. We
Hmm.
are so fearful of our children going anywhere alone.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think parents are just more cognizant of dangerous elements
Yeah.
because there are so many dangerous elements today that it makes us fearful as parents.
Yep.
Um, so The most observed categories were play with heights, yeah, like trees,
Hmm.
play with high speed,
Oh yeah.
rough and tumble play.
Yep.
Almost all children engaged in some form of risky play. Only 4 out of 86 children did not engage in risky play.
Wow. I'm sure some people are horrified listening to this right now,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to some of these categories of like playing near dangerous elements, the rough and tumble aspects, playing with dangerous tools. We're not, yeah. So we're going to talk about the difference between risky play and hazardous play. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember as a child, I used to play, I had a neighbor, a little boy I used to play with, and we both had big wheels. Remember big wheels?
Oh, I love those.
Oh my
My
gosh.
my children had them.
Yeah, my girls
Yeah.
had big wheels as well. We had our big wheels and we would play crash up behind the shed where we would start about 20 feet from each other and just full on ride as fast as we can and just ram into each other in the center. And I can remember
Oh,
the thrill of, riding
yeah.
as fast as I possibly can towards him and then crashing into each other. And yeah, we got a little banged up. There were definitely scrapes and bruises along the
I
way.
know. Yeah. I
But
used to ride my wagon. We lived on a big hill
yeah.
and I had a wagon and I would throw my neighbor in the back and I would steer the wagon. We would fly down the hill and then it would go up a hill. So we would slow down. But how we never crashed, I don't know.
I know. And you crash, you get some bumps and bruises, and
Yes.
you learn an awful lot along the way. And it is
So,
exhilarating and fun. And,
yeah.
I think we can be extremely overprotective of, I think we've both talked about being at times helicopter parents when our children
Yeah.
were younger. And I think, there's still a lot of that wanting to protect and overprotect and not allow
Yeah.
opportunities for that risky play where there's so much opportunity for learning and growth and development.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we'll continue to delve into this a little bit. So there's some key points we want to get across when we talk about risky play. When you think about feelings such as fun and enjoyment, excitement, thrill, pride, achievement, and the good self-esteem when mastering new and challenging tasks,
Hmm.
they're really found to be a driving force and a rewarding experience when children do engage in this risky play. Because, if they climb a tree or jump on some rocks across a stream or something that was a little bit challenging and difficult for them, but then they complete it, they have that sense of accomplishment. They have that thrill and pride and achievement in the work, the play that they did. And that's going to bolster their self-esteem and something they can look back on. I was able to do that. I'm strong, I'm capable. So giving them the opportunity to do those things is a huge gift.
Yeah.
Um, a common definition of risky play is thrilling and exciting forms of physical play that involved uncertainty and even a potential risk of physical injury. I know I was always so fearful of my daughters getting hurt. I was the hovering mom that was standing under the swing,
Yeah.
standing under the monkey bars. I didn't want anyone to fall. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. And wouldn't you know, the very first week of kindergarten, my daughter fell off the monkey bars at kindergarten and she broke her arm. And I
Oh.
felt like, you know what? It's probably the first time nobody was hovering underneath her to catch her when she fell. She never had to
Oh.
learn how to fall to be, how to fall safely, how to land on her feet, because I was always there catching her, me or my husband. So,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
a
there's
great point.
there's something to be said for sometimes they're going to fall and it's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to feel like the worst parent in the world, but it's okay.
Yeah.
They're going to get back up. They're going to be okay. And again, we'll
Truly.
talk
Yeah.
about the difference between risky play and hazardous play. We're
Yeah.
not we're not condoning hazardous play. Um,
No, no,
yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, when I
Well,
think about how, you still want to be vigilant. Like risky play is allowing your child to climb up two branches of a tree, and see what it feels like to navigate that feeling of the gravity pulling on them and reaching for the next branch and getting their foot in the right place.
right.
Hazardous play is if you look up there and you see a branch that's half rotted and you see them reaching for that branch and you don't say anything. There's a
Yeah.
big difference between
Right.
allowing that little bit of risky play where they're learning and they're figuring it out, and the true hazard that certainly lurks out there. So, I
I
think we
know.
as parents, we have to be vigilant. We have to know the difference. We have to be a little bit okay stepping out of our comfort zone, and letting them engage in the risky piece while still protecting them from true hazards.
Oh gosh, especially over the summer months. Right now, I'm thinking about open water
Yes,
and how, don't let children just roam around near open water. Just
absolutely. We are
because
not
there's a
condoning
hazard.
that. That
Yeah,
is hazardous play. That is a
exactly.
big difference from risky play.
Well, in this research study, some other key points came out as well, and that is that there is significantly more rough and tumble play indoors compared to outdoors.
Mm,
And I think because it's easier for us as parents to keep them corralled.
right?
There was no significant difference between boys and girls and the overall amount of risky play. I love that.
Yeah,
Boys did more rough and tumble play than girls, which is very consistent with previous research. I
right.
can say my boys loved rough and tumble play. In our household, there was a lot of rough and tumble play, but even when we were at soccer games or any athletic events, my boys would find other boys
Yeah.
to engage in rough and tumble play.
Uh-huh.
And it was just the best. Older children tended to engage in risky play slightly more than younger children. They're probably, showing examples of what it looks like. And
Yeah.
did you know that physical play is also important for brain development? There's lots of information that connects to this. And we had a guest before on our podcast, Mr. Dearyberry.
Hmm.
And he also wrote this book with Jones. And in their book, they state, when we engage in physical play, our brain releases a chemical um, called brain derived neurotrophic factor,
Mm.
BDNF. And so when you think about this, the neuron growth inside the brain is stimulated within the cortex and the hippocampus regions. And these are the parts that are responsible for memory, learning, language, and logic.
Oh, so
So,
important. Yeah,
right?
that's such
So,
a great finding.
all these things are like firing in our brains when we're engaging in that risky play
Yeah.
because there's problem solving.
Hmm.
And when you think about when we're at our highest level of capacity in our brains, we're engaging in that critical thought process and problem solving and collaboration with others.
Hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we found that the findings suggest that early childhood education programs should provide environments that allow room for risky play, both indoors and out,
Mm.
because it supports children's interests and it supports their development in all the ways that we're talking about. So, beyond even at home, it's certainly encouraged in preschool childcare situations, that risky play be encouraged. So we love that.
Yes.
Um, as an occupational therapist, we often talk about, if we have a child who we're working with a developmental delay or working with habilitation or rehabilitation, we often talk about that just right challenge. And
Mm.
I think that risky play naturally provides this because children are constantly assessing their abilities, making decisions, making choices, adapting their movements, adapting their next move, and learning from their mistakes. So
Mm.
that's exactly how motor planning, problem solving, that executive function, and confidence develop. So you can almost see that process taking place. So when a child climbs a tree or they're bouncing on a log or they're navigating uneven
Mhm.
terrain, they're not just building muscles, they're using those executive functioning skills to sort of figure things out. They have to pay attention. They have to assess risk, make a plan, monitor their actions, and then readjust when things don't go exactly as expected. When their foot starts to slip, where's a better place they can place their foot? Where's something they can hold on to? How can they show some independence to, get through that obstacle?
You made me think about a parent session I was leading,
Mhm.
and during the session, a parent came up to me and said, "My children's physical development is way behind their academic development."
Mm.
And I asked this parent, "Does your child engage in risky play
Mm.
or outdoor play and
Uh-huh.
indoor play where they're running and using their gross motor skills.
Yeah.
And she said, no, like we
Mhm.
focus so much on the academic aspect
Yep.
that the physical side was lagging.
Wow. I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of that. I think there's a lot of lack of the large muscle play, especially through the winter months,
Hmm.
in colder
Yeah,
regions when it's harder to get outside and get to playgrounds and
sure.
have opportunities for movement and, when screens are handy and so
Yeah,
easy and, it
sure,
can be really
sure.
hard to offer all those opportunities that are going to build those large muscle groups.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many ways, even indoors, to exercise those large muscles.
Oh,
Um,
yes. My gosh. Build obstacle courses out of pillow cushions and
I
forts. And
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we love that. Playing Don't Touch the Floor. The floor is lava. How are you going to get from here to
Oh,
there?
I know. That was such a great game.
I know. It's great. So much fun. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about too about we need to touch on the connection to anxiety because
Mm,
research suggests that when children have opportunities to test themselves physically, they develop confidence in their ability to handle challenges. And
mm,
some researchers have even suggested that limiting all risk-taking opportunities can contribute to higher levels of anxiety because
mm,
children never get to experience overcoming some manageable challenges. So they
mhm.
don't know that they have the capability to do that. So anything challenging feels very scary.
Ooh, I love that. Thanks for mentioning that. So, let's talk about some risky play tips because we're
Okay.
throwing a lot out there,
Yeah.
and we don't want to encourage hazardous play, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So consider supervising children a little less closely. So, like Amy mentioned, you don't have to stand directly underneath your child under the monkey bars at all times um, because they need to learn how to drop on their own.
Yeah.
Just be nearby. Um, Ensure there's time in a child's schedule for free play because this allows them to decide if they want to engage in a type of risky play. Pause for 15 to 30 seconds to observe a child's state of play before intervening. I
Hmm.
know as a
Huge.
parent, our instinct is to jump in right away, but
Yep.
maybe give them some time to problem solve and help children problem solve by using phrases that create a teachable moment, by
Mhm.
ensuring that if a child is feeling okay during risky play, that they exercise the next action and they decide what that will be.
Yeah, for sure. So, like we said, the difference between risky and hazardous, even though risky play has many benefits, there's definitely a need to balance risk taking with injury prevention.
Oh, yeah.
So, while injuries from risky play are often minor, it's really important to consider each individual child's age, abilities, comfort level, and remove hazards and then empower them to make decisions regarding their own play. Risky
Mm,
play does not include ignoring evidence-based safety measures, such as wearing bicycle helmets, leaving children unsupervised in potentially hazardous situations. Obviously, we don't want them near traffic,
yeah.
near open water. We don't want to push children beyond their comfort levels. Um, the foundation of risky play is that it is child led and adult supported. So we're talking about like, building a pile of sofa cushions in the middle of the living room floor and allowing them to jump onto the cushions. We're
Yeah.
not talking we're not talking about diving off the roof of the house.
Yeah. Let's not play Frogger in the street.
No,
No.
absolutely not.
So here are a couple phrases that create teachable moments during risky play. Do you feel stable on that log of wood? Notice how these rocks are slippery and how this tool is sharp. Are you feeling scared, excited, safe to engage with the child and understand where their frame of mind is?
Mhm.
And how will you get down, go up, or go across? So, definitely helping them problem solve. Sometimes we think school readiness means flashcards and worksheets, but school readiness also means having confidence, having self regulation, using persistence, problem solving, and the ability to manage uncertainty. And risky play builds all of those skills. So before telling a child, be careful, maybe be more specific. So, where will you put your foot next? Do you feel balanced? What's your plan? Um, does it feel safe being that high? Research often shows that be careful, or the words be careful, often stops play, while specific questions encourage thinking. So
Love that.
good to be mindful of those things. So just a couple
Yeah.
of tips to consider the next time you go outside and engage in risky play.
Yeah.
Instead of saying be careful, just be more specific.
Yes. And I mean, I would say that even pulling a chair up beside you when you're making dinner and allowing your child to climb up on a chair beside you and giving them a banana to cut with a plastic knife could
Fantastic.
be considered risky play. I mean, it's
Hmm.
using a tool that they might not be familiar with or often allowed to utilize, but
Hmm.
there's so many math skills and science skills and problem solving that can be incorporated into a cooking activity and allowing them, to use a tool that you supervise and ensure that they're safe with. Is a great way to teach some of those skills, give them some autonomy, help them to
Yeah.
build some self-confidence, and just think about how you can introduce some of these things to your child. And it's thrilling for the child to have the opportunity to do some of these new and different things that they might not always be allowed to do. So, really think about how that's going to bolster their self-esteem and independence.
Yeah. Great. Good tip.
Okay, well, thank you for joining today. Thank you for listening to Plant Seed of Learning. We want to thank our guests, past and present, for sharing their knowledge and work. A special thank you to our producer, Penn Ketchum. You can find our podcast wherever you listen on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. We can't wait to learn from you and plant more seeds of learning together.